So hello and welcome. Just one sec, I have people joining us again. So thanks for taking some time today to look at this, our webinar about tools, time saving, and tips to improve your practice. And I don't profess to have all the answers, and a few of our members are going to actually give some ideas as to what's working well in their practice. And feel free for anybody who has a brilliant idea that we haven't heard of to let us know about it. So what we're going to go through today, we're going to talk a bit about tools that could be used for clients and things that can do a little bit of cutting a corner in your practice. We're going to talk a bit about software, either software that you are using, software that you could be using, and bring it to your attention whether you're making the best value of what you have. Some time management thoughts, and then last but not least, technology and networking out there in the social media world. So I want to pose to you the question, who's doing the most work when you're taking on a case? Is it you or is it the client? So we've often heard about those cases where we're working harder than the clients. And it's especially those times when the clients walk in and they're hoping that you're going to give them the magic bullet, that you're going to give them 100% of the answers they're looking for. They've dumped their bag of dirty laundry on your desk and you're that miracle worker. That's usually when we find that maybe we're winding up doing more of the work. So that's not really where you want to be. You want to manage that situation and you want to help the clients so that they're taking the responsibility that they need to do. And you're giving them back work that they need to be taking on where it belongs, because the task at hand needs to be a balanced situation. It's you're doing the piece that you know what to do at your, top hourly rate, and the clients aren't wasting their time and money, and more importantly, wasting your time doing things that don't make sense. Sorry, I just have to let people in. So I would certainly say, and I certainly use the term homework for my clients all the time, because they need to take on the tasks that make sense for them. We have the technical knowledge and the skills, but our clients have all of the data, all of the documents, and they know their circumstances. However, what we're faced with is more than not frequently, we are going to be faced with a client who isn't organized, or maybe doesn't want to be organized, or hasn't had any of the dealings with the financial matters. And so they don't really think it's their responsibility. So you want to put the tools in their hands that'll help them so that, it's optimal time for you and for them. So I'm going to show you a bit about what we've used or what we have available to people for checklists and questions and budget tools and workbooks. I would certainly say that planning the homework you're going to give them is important, giving them deadlines and making sure that they understand that if they want things to move at the optimal pace, which, everybody wants to do this at the least cost at the fastest pace, then they have to take the responsibility for that part so that it's not being bogged down. And of course, they're not going to blame themselves. They're going to blame you. But if you give them things in the format that's homework and deadlines, then it's much easier for them to accept, even if you have to be a little bit of a taskmaster. So sending out a checklist with questions as soon as possible is really helpful. You want to get to know the key items about the clients as early as you can on getting things organized. So it would certainly be something that if you can at all do, that you send it out even before that first meeting or that long conversation that winds up to take a few minutes that they were just going to tell you, you know, the key facts, and it all of a sudden turns into a rambling that goes minutes into who knows an hour. And they've really not provided you with the information that you're looking for in the first place. It's drifted off into a lot of, you know, their feelings, and that's not helping them. That's not helping you. And focusing them back is where you want to go, so that the money that they're spending, if it's going to be about their feelings, it's more useful if that goes when they're talking to their family professional than when they're talking to you about their finances and those sorts of things. You also want to get them filling out as much as you can worksheets. So we have CFDS calculating budget that clients can use. And if they're the old school client that wants to do it with pen and paper, this works fine for them. Even more attractive is to those clients who are happy to receive it as an email, and then they can fill it in. It's set up in such a way that it saves them time as well as it's saving you time, because they can fill in what is it that they're spending their money on, and it's calculating it for them on a monthly or annual basis, which, you know, then you can get back and it's in a more readable format. In a lot of cases, or at least not every case, but in a lot of cases, I've had people where they're wanting to divvy up the household assets. And again, I've used a worksheet, which is helpful, that they can do the lion's share of the work for that. Because again, that's not really a good spend of our time. It's just really useless. And so if you put that right task of that responsibility back on them, it makes it work a lot better. And again, you can get something that has, this is what it's worth, but they know who's got, you know, the antique that they still wanted, or whatever the case may be. I would certainly say it's really key that we understand our clients' levels of knowledge. When they come to us, they, you know, they could be somebody who's really great with numbers, but in a lot of cases, both parties are not in that situation. So preparing them for their new reality helps a lot better if you know where they're at. Because now, regardless of how much money they make, they are going to have to rejig their finances. They're going to have to work with less dollars and this new family circumstance that they're in. So again, rather than them giving you all of their bank statements and credit cards that you painstakingly have to go through, leaving that work to the clients is less costly for you and for them. And it takes that uninteresting work off of your plate. It also is a key piece, is not only that it's taking that work off your plate, it's helping them. So it's a win-win in the fact that they are learning how to do things better, how to do things at all in some cases. So you're helping educate them and preparing them for dealing with household bills that they maybe never even thought about before, having a deficit, and how are they going to deal with that deficit, learning how to survive in this new financial situation where they've, you know, got the two households to pay for, but it's double the cost on the same income. So you're building in those survival skills, because we're not helping them as much as we could if you're just, you know, doing all the number crunching, but you're not allowing them to see what they can do for themselves in this new circumstance going forward. There's also a number of workbooks out there that can help prepare the clients. And I'm starting off with the ones that are outside of our access easily, and there's a cost involved. So this one that I've got on the screen right now is the Jacinta Gallant's workbooks for either people that are starting a relationship or people that are ending a relationship. And it's set up in a game-like aspect. And so they start off with it being not very daunting or overwhelming, and they can work through the workbook and then share their feelings and their experiences and how this is going to impact what the work you're doing. There is a cost to this, and if, like, she presented for us a while back, and so I don't know if anyone has been using them extensively. If they have, perhaps, you know, we could ask you to share later on about that. and whether you found it successful or not. But it certainly is a tool that at least again gets the clients thinking and working in a different place than they would be if they're sitting with their deer in the headlights saying, I don't know where to start. There are also workbooks that you may want to access, or tools that you may want to access that are within practice groups that you may be involved in. Our practice group created this binder, which is something that's used to help, with the clients understanding better what the process is going to be and what they need to answer for us. And also it helps with us, the professionals, in how to keep us on task. And I mean, certainly it's easy for things to get out of hand. And so using these kind of goalposts to work through is really useful. So I would encourage you to go check with your own local groups or any resources that you might have at your hands, so that if there are things there to assist you, you can, put those into your practice. I would certainly also encourage you, if any of the groups you belong to don't have any of these tools, the opportunity is then there for you to say, let's, get a few of us together and create something that would be useful for your particular group. It also allows you to, get noticed in your group and gain the respect of the lawyers and other family professionals. Because, sometimes I hear from people saying, well, I go to meetings or I do this or I do that, and, nothing ever happens. But this might be your opening as to them realizing, how talented you are. We also have our CFDS workbooks, and this is a resource that, again, it gets the clients focused, makes them think about all the different aspects that they're going to have to talk to you about, and helps start them off so that they're aware and they get seriously thinking about what's important to them, and helps you understand also what's important to them. And so if you aren't using these kind of tools, I would really encourage you to do that. One other thing that I've found that's really helpful is something that is not onerous and it's not scary, but it is sort of a fun kind of tool that helps identify their money personality. Oftentimes we can see where some of the things that bog us down with a case is when the clients get stuck someplace, and we may or may not know why they've got stuck. And this can be one of the tools that helps you understand that. So it's a very quick thing for them to do. And it, as I say, it's not, it doesn't make them feel that they've revealed something that's really terrible. It's kind of in a fun way, but it helps us understand better what they're all about. And I would say I most definitely use all these other workbooks. So for example, if I have somebody who's talking about doing a new business, that's a case that I'm working on, or somebody who's got a business that's not been around forever, that's their main source of employment, guiding them by working with them on doing a business plan workbook. Or if they're facing retirement, then it would be the retirement workbook that help them think about all the things that are important to them. And again, we often hear about clients that are terrified when they're going through separation or divorce. What's going to happen to me in retirement? Well, this puts their energy in a place that is more useful and can be, built upon. Also, a workbook about will and estate planning, because it's a key time when there's a transition in their life, whether it's them starting a new relationship or ending their existing marriage. This is a time when you want to be revisiting what are people doing with their estate planning. And the book that says Goals and Prosperity Plan, I use the prosperity plan with clients. This is actually a budget management and a rejigging of their finances, but it sounds a lot more optimistic and comfortable if it's prosperity as opposed to budgeting. Because budgeting just makes people think like they're losing something, as opposed to prosperity makes them realize that they're, you know, improving their lifestyle. So one of the first pages in that, it asks them to think about the people in their life, where they live and where they work and what their expectations are. And so it has some timelines with a 5-year, 10-year, etc. And it's not just about their ex or their future spouse. It's also about their children, about their parents, and that sort of thing. So it gives them a broader picture, and again, allows you to help them with the tools that can make them more successful in their going forward lives. We're going to turn now to software, which is definitely part of what we wind up dealing with. And there are a number of things that we use. So I'm going to start off with talking about using our perspective software. Some of you are regular users, and some of you are either sparingly or not using it. And I wanted to bring to people's attention that it can be used in a variety of ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be used in any one particular way. And depending on what you do, I would certainly say it can save you time and allows you to neutrally and objectively present things to clients and help them with their reality checks, which sometimes are tough for you to bring onto the table. And this is a way to do it so that it's showing them more than telling them. And that could be a more conducive way to do that. So if we look at, in this case, I'm strictly going to be talking to you about the expenses and the cash flow. So this particular couple was a real case that I had. And so they were a senior couple, and the supporter earned more money, but he was the person who spent the least. And when we looked at things, it allowed him to see and squash some of his fears, and that, you know, what was he going to look like going forward and that sort of thing. So we filled in the expense areas. It shows like categorically where the spending happens. So in this case, when we look at where all those expenses are, nothing would stick out and say, oh my gosh, this person's like, you know, living on the high life and they're enjoying life too much, and that's where the problem is. As opposed to his partner, who was in the circumstance of having lower, almost, you know, minimal income and spending a lot. And as you can see, the cost of pets and the cost of medical were significant. In fact, you know, higher than her household costs. And believe it or not, her medical was not essential, all medical. A lot of that was spa and other cosmetic type of things that she felt she needed. However, it definitely shows that unless she was making a good income, these are a lot of expenses that were going to have to be met. And unfortunately, in this circumstance, she had been in a lifestyle that the bank account was always replenished. And if the credit cards became ridiculously high, they got paid off by her spouse. And so what we were faced with was a client that had no knowledge and no desire to accept reality or understand that the pot of gold that she had been living off of was now going to be empty. And the numbers, like, basically spoke for themselves. So it brought to her attention that her lifestyle couldn't remain the same as it was, no matter what they did.
Linda, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Going back one page.
Yeah, okay.
To the one that you were just on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who your person is that does your program here, but why wouldn't you break out medical to show medically necessary as opposed to medical?
Oh,
nice
well,
to
no,
have?
I could have done that. That was me. Like, I used the categories based on how they were given to me by her, because I wasn't going to, like, what she thought was essential and what you or I might think was essential didn't necessarily match. But yeah, I mean, I could have, like, I certainly could have put, you know, prescriptions, medical, like other things. I could have gone as detailed as I wanted to. So like up here where you put in your description or your category, you're in complete control of what that says. Those are blanks that you're adding, and you can add in and call them whatever you want. Okay,
Okay, yeah. I'm just sensitive to that because I also sell the private health programs.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So moving on, so here we see the base cash flow. And so in this situation with the person who didn't spend as much, it's easy to show them, here's your deficit. And you've got enough savings to cover that deficit, so you're going to be fine. It's not going to be an issue. However, if we look at his ex, her cash flow, she didn't have savings because she didn't choose to do any savings. And so this is not an easy solution. She can't just go somewhere and find the money. So it has to be something that is going to be changing. So, it's just really easy for them to see, oh, this isn't working. And when we look at her graph, like it continues to go down. I mean, she's already in a deficit and it goes worse and worse. So, it made it easier to explain, not necessarily easier to deal with her, but easier to explain that something had to change. It could have possibly stayed the same. So we all have to use the support calculations of some description, and there are two main providers of the support calculations. I would encourage anybody who hasn't, because we've got a wide variety of people on the call. So some people are newer and some people are not. Some of you are seasoned and have your support calculations all sorted out. Child view is used in certain provinces, and that, again, if that's what the legal community in your area uses, then that's the one that you're going to want to become more expert with. They do have workshops and people that can help you to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. And I would certainly say that once you do the work on support calculations and the work on net family property, it is one of the ways that the lawyers see the value that we bring to the table, and is how you can, gain more referrals in the future from them. When they see what we can do, as opposed to their assistant filling in things, not necessarily knowing what they're doing and that sort of thing, it makes them understand that there are errors that get made and that they have a liability, which is important for us to, have on their radar. Justice Canada also has a number of tools, educational items on their site. And those of you who are newly minted graduates may find this helpful. And even those of us who are, the senior CFDS people, it's a good idea to keep an eye out on the site to make sure that if there's anything new that you're aware of, and to understand what your clients may be looking at when they're asking you questions. The other main provider is DivorceMate, and that's changed hands over the past year because it got bought by an Australian company called Leap, and no longer offers the pay-per-use version. So it's now a monthly fee, and they're also moving to a strictly cloud version of the software. They are, there's a number of tools on their site. So I put some links in here for people, depending on where you are. And BC also uses this, even though that there's not something on their outer site that's showing that. Their tools are very helpful, and their technical team is really great. They get back to you within a very short period of time. So any work that you're doing that you need help with, feel free to just reach out, and they will definitely be there to guide you and help you along. If you are serious about working in this area, it's really important that you are using the calculation tools that are there. It's what the lawyers are familiar with. It's what they expect. And without becoming familiar and doing what you need to do to bring yourself up to speed with this, you won't be taken seriously. So I'm gonna shift gears and move things over to Gail Belchior and Terri McDougall, who use Clio, comprehensive case management software, and help us understand, because they know more about this than I do for sure, as to what is the value there and how it could help your practice.
That's great, Linda. Thank you. Can you make me co-host or something so I could do a little screen share?
Sure. Oops, you disappeared. Wait a minute. I went to find you and you ran out on me. Okay, there we are. All yours. You're on mute.
Let's hope this all works. So screen sharing.
Looks good.
Okay, so you are seeing my pain points main screen?
Yes.
Excellent. I set this up in advance of, and every time you change technology and change something, it never necessarily goes the way you think. So thanks, Linda, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm in the Niagara region. Linda's asked me to talk about Clio, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my perspective, my pain points, and my search for a system to help me. So I started using Clio March of 2015, so I've been a user for quite some time. It is Canadian based out of Vancouver, although I do believe it uses a US based cloud for its storage. The annual cost for me right now, and I have Clio Manage, and I have one step above the basic. I had to upgrade because they got rid of the version I was using, or the price section I was using. So my last bill was $563 US. I use Clio Grow. I think Terry's going to talk about Clio Manage, which has some different features to it. And there are those different pricing models. And their help desk is fantastic. So even though I'm in a time zone different than theirs, first thing in my morning day, there's somebody there to help me with questions I might have or problems I'm having. So my pain point started, and what I was looking for was to be able to track retainer deposits. So I work by retainer, and I needed to know at a glance how much was my money and how much was money that might have to be refunded to clients. So not yet billed out. And I wanted an easy way to track that. I wanted an easy way to track the time I spent on a client file. And so I have sections or categories in for when I'm working on a net family property statement, or when I'm reviewing support documentation, when I'm working on a spousal support calculation, category called emails, calls, correspondence, when I'm having an individual meeting or a shared meeting, and those can all be tracked just with a couple clicks and entering in some time information. So that was really good to be able to track per client. I also wanted something that would generate invoices with ease for me, because I had been doing them manually up to that point. And I wanted something that would allow some flexibility so I could make adjustments before I sent out the invoice. And Clio hit all of those check marks. It also gave me a bunch of other things that I found very helpful. So I got the added benefit of secured uploading. So my clients paperlessly upload their bank statements, their income tax returns, notices of assessment, and all of those things that we collect. And then I can share a file folder with the lawyers and their assistants for what they need to see, which may not be everything the clients have uploaded. So I pare things down and I set up a second shared folder. I'm a list person. I went from having multiple post-it notes all over my desk to having the tasks tool within my Clio. And that's where now I put those, oh, I got to remember to do this. And I put my notes in there. So I can have Fred and Wilma Flintstone's file, and I can put in there a client related task that is set agenda for collaborative practice meeting number 1. And I can put a date to that and I can mark it off when it's completed. So I have mine set up where I can sort things by client related, business related, marketing, and then I throw in a few personal things. So I remember to do some things related to just me. It allows me to view a dashboard, which shows my billable hours. So day, week, month, year, which really means that I am tracking and being accountable for my time. And that's allowing me to make sure my business is functioning as it should be. And that's nothing I have to do. It's right there. I just have to enter in when I finish working on a client file, or I use the clock feature, turn it on, turn it off when I'm finished working on that file, or I can record it manually. Both options are available to me. I wanted to be able to track unpaid or overdue bills. And this allows me to do that without having to do anything. The invoice goes out and then it'll show me, you know, if it's 30 days overdue or whatever my due date was on that particular invoice. Although I'm happy to say I've never had an unpaid bill and hope to retire and be able to say that same comment. And then there are reports that can be generated that are both business-oriented reports or client-specific or grouped by clients. I don't use the reports feature very much. I did in 2015 and 16 as I was cross-checking certain things, but it's not a function that I use a whole lot. But these are features that are there. And beyond my needs, I could integrate my Office 365 calendar into Clio, which I found on a help call. I was having an issue and they were talking and I was asking about, oh, what are other features you find your users using? And she talked to me about the integration of the calendar, and you can link it to your Zoom account. So I could probably do things a little more seamlessly there. I haven't gone that route as of yet. I could do credit card payments. I don't take credit cards, so there's a feature I don't need, but it's available. And I could have my clients communicating with me through their Clio portal by text, email, or internal messaging. I don't use that because I don't want a dozen different ways for clients to contact me. If you're working with me, you're doing it by email, so I can include both spouses and make that just one point where I have to go to view everything. But it is available there and it logs everything in. I do want to say, if you are going to use Clio or pretty much any software management system that you're setting up, be prepared to spend some time for initial setup. So when I migrated over, I had to spend a bit of business admin time on uploading my logo, my HST number, all those activities I mentioned, the kinds of things that I want to track with my clients. And then I had to add some current client details and what their retainer was on file. So that took me like a few weekends to get that all going. And then I just stopped using the manual system I had been using, and everything has worked seamlessly from that point. And then generating invoices for me done at the end of the month or the very beginning of the next month, a couple of hours, depending on how active my files have been. And I send them out and they're done. So my ask of you is, if you are going to use Clio, connect with me. I'm happy to show you or answer any individual questions. And I know I've done this with a bunch of individuals on the screen in the past, but if you are interested, please let me know so I can do a referral to the Clio team there. It's a win-win. My understanding is you will get a 10% discount, so that's a bonus for you. I get a thank you gift card. You can contact me by email or my office number, which are on the screen there. And that's how I'm using Clio for the most part. It just gives me that seamless business management, client management integration. It does not do my bookkeeping. It does not take my invoices or my client retainer and put it into my Simply Accounting Sage software. That's bookkeeping that at this point I do, as opposed to having a bookkeeper do it, because it doesn't take me that long. I understand all of my bookkeeping needs. So there isn't that integration. That feature might exist, and it might exist with Some of the other software bookkeeping programs, I can't answer that one since I don't use it. That's basically my use of the Clio. Any questions anyone has before I turn it over? Bettina and then Carl.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Carl. Hi, everybody. Gail, so you're using the manage, right? As I'm looking at grow and manage, but I understand Terri will speak about grow. So you're using the manage.
I'm using the manage in the most, not quite the absolute basic format. I'm one step above that. Basic as I understood when they dropped me off of the platform model I had, which was getting started. It was just, I think, called getting started. The basic model did not have the ability for uploading supporting documentation. And that's huge for me and worth the price differential. Although it is a pain point, I have to pay in US dollars. And that's just on me. That made it worthwhile doing that. I'll let Terri talk all about the Clio Grow piece.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question, or do you want more details?
Yeah, I would have one other question. There's the you can collaborative through Clio with a lawyer or a colleague. Have you done that?
No, because, well, the only thing I share is in the document section. I will share with called Co-Counsel, used to be called Clio Connect. It's just a way to share a file folder, and then I'll share that file folder for uploading to the two clients, and then I will drag and drop another one over with reduced content, and I will share that with, if it's a collaborative file or if it's ILA for my mediation files, I will share it with the two lawyers and their admin staff. And I can see on a client file matter if the clients or if the lawyers have gone in and where have they gone in and what time they went. It all activity timestamps everything. And when clients are uploading, it sends me an email notification. So I know on a Saturday night, oh, I know my clients are spending time uploading their documentation because my email will be ping, ping, ping. So you can set it up that way. There is the Clio for Co-Counsel does allow for other features. I don't have a need for that, so I haven't really explored it. I guess I'm of the opinion until I have a pain point, I'm not looking to find features. If I stumble across them, great. But if I'm finding, oh, this isn't working as well, then I'm calling the help desk and saying, hey, is there something I can use?
Yeah. So, and you haven't connected your Outlook to Clio to save all the emails to the file?
I have not, mainly because it's not a problem for me to manage it in Office 365. So I don't find that cumbersome. And I already set up a file folder or a section in my Office 365, and I put that particular client's emails in that subfolder or in that section.
Okay. Thanks, Gail.
You're
Awesome.
welcome. Carl.
Okay, Gail, how cheap is this program? Is it really going to help me?
So first slide that I mentioned, in the version I'm using, which has those particular features, I went and looked in my billing, $563 US. So between $750 and $800 on a good day. If it's a less exchange rate, I'm less than the 770 mark, but I'm pretty sure if I looked at my Visa, it was 770 last year. That's the annual.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so I have at times charged my clients. And I know some lawyers now just, as soon as they open a file, they'll call it tech services, and they'll bill a certain amount, and that's for their divorce mate, their Clio, or whatever it is they're using. I may go to that. I have in the past included a charge to the clients, and then for their uploading and sharing to the lawyers.
Okay,
So
well, you just brought up a whole other notion that I'd never even thought of. Does anyone else charge their clients for like a tech fee or a initiation of file fee or a
You know what? That would be akin to having a masonry show up at your house to do some cement work and asking you to give you the trowels to do it. I don't know. It's a basic tool as far as I'm concerned that we should pay for. That's just
And I
my
guess,
view on it.
yeah, and I guess I've heard Allison kind of use that because I've asked that question out to the spa group and have heard the comment like this is your basic tool. For me, not all of my files require divorce mates. So why should my clients in an hourly rate pay for that? So my hourly rate may be less or reflected, and therefore I only charge the people where I have to use that specialized tool, where I have to use like I don't charge them my Office 365. That's for me my basic trowel tool, my basic plumbing tool. But my Clio or my divorce mate specifically are specialized because it's not every file I am using those particular things for. So if you've embedded it into your hourly rate, then maybe there wouldn't be that charge.
Yeah, it's
But
kind
then
of funny because I
there would
know, yeah, because it's one of those interesting situations because like I'm kind of on, not that I'm trying to pick sides or anything like that, but for me, it's like I got a fee and it covers everything. And I know, is anyone else, there's a happy hour with the collaborative professional group on Fridays at 4:30. Anyone ever joined those webinars? Yeah. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago. When one of my comments was used about the fact that I don't charge for, phone calls for anything that's under 15 minutes or emails. And of course, all the lawyers that know me are like, oh my God, Carl, what are you doing that for? I'm like, well, that's just how I build relationships better. So I know we all just, do things differently. So I was just kind of curious to know what that cost was because I try to keep my costs down as much as possible. Funny enough, I use an Excel spreadsheet that does pretty much what Gail you just told me that you do, and I was like, huh, I wonder if I could do it better.
and that's where I started, Carl. I
Okay.
started with that, and then it got too big, too cumbersome, and the spreadsheet really didn't track my first pain point of being able to look at my bank account and say, if I have $10,000 in that operating account, how much of it is mine? How much of it belongs to the client? If every one of my clients said, give me back the retainer, I can easily do that. So that
Yeah.
was not within my spreadsheet capability and the amount of time. So that was kind of my point there. So Sharon has a question. She has her hand up.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I'm using Sync, and so I'm interested to compare. Is there any limits on the size of documents that you can upload into Clio?
I'm going to say no, nothing I've encountered. And in fact, when I have done, and Linda knows this, when Linda and I have done video recordings for some training sessions, I can't send them to her in certain ways, but I can put it into Clio and then I can share a Clio file with her and she can access it that way. And I've done recordings for training sessions to the students who are doing the advanced accreditation that are a couple hours in length. So they're fairly large files. I've never had anything pop up and say, you've reached your max, where I'll get that in my Dropbox. I'll get that in emails. So, and I've never had anything where clients say, oh, Gail, I still have half of my bank accounts to add in and it's telling me I can't add anymore. So I'm assuming there's not anything. The largest file I had in terms of uploads is I had a collaborative file in which there were 80 different bank accounts. So like that was just ridiculously large and no issues.
Okay. Another question. I've got a couple of questions. If it's stored in the cloud in the US, have you had any lawyers that have come back and went, not happy about sharing files?
So I'm going to say no, because I know a number of lawyers I work with, either they're people I send clients to for ILA on mediation, or I may have had collaborative files with them, they in fact use Clio.
Okay,
So
okay, so
if they're using it, it must have been okay by the Bar Association. Like I'm making a bunch of assumptions here, but I have had no one, and I know several lawyers who use Clio.
okay, yeah, I did have one lawyer and went, okay, and I said, yeah, it's in the cloud in the Canadian, and she, okay, that's fine. The other thing I think is, Carl, your question is, I don't charge a fee, but what I do have is a sort of a separate rate. So if I set up, and sync a client portal, then I'll charge the time, but at a lower rate, or get somebody else, like my kids, right? So I have contractors that I use to help, but I do bill it, but at a lower rate. So not really.
Right. And that goes to my ability. So when I do my invoicing, I have the feature turned on where it will list per activity. I don't group them together. So clients can always question anything they wish to question. And what I've implemented is I'll look through that. I'll look at the bottom line. I'll then inhale deeply and say, oh my gosh, how much is going to HST? What do they have on retainer? And I'll look and I'll maybe say, oh, I spent an hour and a half on something. And I'll look at, well, what was that? And I may think, well, really, like an hour and a half, I'm going to charge them an hour and a quarter. I'm going to charge them an hour. And so I'll make that adjustment, and I'll just put in the section, and I can do that while I'm preparing the invoice. I don't have to go back in and out of the client file, and I'll just say discounted rate applied, or discounted time applied, or discounted rate and time applied. And so that piece around what Carl was asking, do you charge? I may charge for that so they know that there was something, but they'll have made it up somewhere else. And so I'm looking at sort of the overall charge there.
I mean, I do it because as an accountant, in a public practice, the client always expects it by a line basis. So I do exactly the same. As I kind of look at it and go, am I charging too much? Was it just a slow day or something? So that at the end, but I always give them line by line. And one of the things that I have started to do is, if I have a client who's rabbited on the phone for so long, I actually, when I'm on my iPhone, I take a picture of how long I've been on the phone for. Unless if the client comes out, yeah, you were on the phone for an hour. But no, I don't necessarily charge it all, but just so it's backing me up. But thank you, Gail. Appreciate it.
Okay. There was a couple of questions in the chat that I'm just looking at. Do I tell the clients its data is stored in the US? I need to actually go and call the Clio help desk and find out the details of that, because I'm not absolutely 100%. So at this point, no, I don't tell them. I do tell them it's a Canadian-based company. And then a Google-based email account. Well, half the clients are quite happy. They'd send me all their financial documentation by Hotmail, Gmail, Yahoo Mail. And so I don't think clients have as much of a concern about storage based for something that's encrypted, because they don't seem to have a problem wanting to just send it to me in, through regular mail. I think that may be more of an issue that we have, and wanting to fit the criteria that, and maybe Linda, you can talk about this, because I know there is something within our ethics that we are, and you provided it to me, because I did have a client who resisted wanting to have a Clio account. And I had to prove to her that I was required to ensure that I was using best methods, best practices for gathering financial information. And so Linda gave me a PDF version of the section of the ethics that we're all required to follow, and that was helpful. So I could say to the client, it's not just me, it's I have this standard, I have this obligation to go to. So Gail, are you using DivorceMate subscription or pay for use? If latter, do you use it now? So I understand there is no more pay per file. It is just I use a monthly, I have the monthly subscription, which I never previously had to have because I wasn't using it frequently enough to warrant that. But that is what I use now is I get an invoice.
That's
and
how
I-
it's, yeah, that's how it's changed. It's no longer pay-per-use.
So that was Tatiana's question. So if I've missed anybody's question, just use the hand or something. Okay, I think that covers things for me. If there's more questions later on, I'll put my mic back on, but thank you all very much. And if you choose to use Clio, I don't get paid to advertise this. I'm not that way. I do get a gift card, thank you, if there is a referral. But you'll have to let me know if it works for you.
So I think we'll move it over to Terri now.
Okay, Gail, thank you for your PowerPoint. I have nothing, but you covered a lot of those points. I think that I use it a little bit differently than Gail, so I was just going to show you if I could screen share. So I use Clio Grow and Clio Manage. They're different price points. Clio Manage is more expensive. I think I pay, I don't know, $140 a month, something, 150. Sorry, I can find out. I forgot to look that up. So I use Clio Grow. Do I have the ability to share?
Yeah, you can screen share.
Yeah. Okay, let me just go back to my, I just have to find my acceptance. Okay, almost there. There we go. Okay. Okay, so this is, so you can toggle back and forth between the two, like Clio Grow and Clio Manage here. So this is how I use it. Some of this stuff is new, so let me just show you kind of what I use it for. So when I get a lead that comes in, they can go to my website, book an appointment, and then it generates a lead in here. And then you can see that some of these people are newly added, and some of these I'm just waiting for a decision on. So what I use Clio Grow for the most part is, let me just pick a client here. Okay, so let's say this one here. So this helps with the intake process too. So, I had a conversation with a client. I send out all of the forms for intake I use in here. I can set up templates. So these are the forms I send out, like a conflict and communication assessment, because, we're supposed to be screening for IPV and DV. I do a financial summary so that I have an idea of where all the assets are in what and make sure that as they sending their disclosure that, do you have a DB pension? Do you have a group savings plan? So that I know that I'm collecting the right information. I have a client intake form. Could somebody mute whoever that is? The client intake form, which has their name and address on it, I put a credit card balance in, credit card request in there too. So if clients haven't paid my bill, I just charge their credit card. And then I've got the engagement letter, which is, my retainer agreement. And then I can put in here in the intake process, I can do like create a new appointment, schedule an email, so prepare the forms and documents for my intake. So at the beginning of COVID, I took on this project to move over here. Gail had talked about this this software, and I was looking for something that would really pull it all together. I feel like everything was piecemeal, and it was kind of chaotic, and I needed everything in one place for as to Gail's remarks. So this is really what I use this for. and then once a client hires me on, all I have to do is click this button here, convert to Clio Manage, and then it goes into Clio Manage. So, this is instrumental for bringing clients on. I'll put reminders in here. If a client says, well, let me think about it for a couple of weeks, and I'm going to be calling them in a couple of weeks. So I put a follow-up in here. It'll tell me if a form is overdue. Like I'll set a reminder that this is, they've got a week to fill this form out. Otherwise, they'll get a reminder that this form hasn't been completed yet. So that's the way I use Clio Grow. And then Clio Manage is, I'm not going to show you all of this because there's kind of some confidential stuff in here, but you know what? I write on little pieces of paper. Oh, remember to do this or this. Well, guess what? I've got it all here. This is the first thing I open every morning. So I can see all the tasks I have to do today. I'll do, for client files, I'll say, O'Sullivan to-do list. And it's like, okay, what do I need to do to move this forward? Maybe I have to follow up with them for some disclosure or set up our next collaborative meeting, whatever that is. So I've got all my tasks to do in here. It shows my calendar. It shows me the unpaid bills I have, and it tracks my the work I've done. You can see that I've barely worked at all today, but you can also use this to when I'm working on a file, I just turn on my timer, and then when I'm finished, it brings this up, and then it's like, that's not my rate, that's an old thing. So you can pull up all your matters on here. You can find a category, and I just put my description here, what it is, work on NFP or, fill out pension forms, whatever that is. And I just save the entry. And then you can see so these are files that I have on the go. That would be a good one. So these people here, for instance. So you can see all the activities. When it goes to invoicing the clients, all I have to do is click on this quick bill, and the invoice comes up. Now I have my Clio integrated with my Outlook as well as with my QuickBooks. So all of the invoices show up they're mirrored between Clio and QuickBooks. So I also I save all of the emails that a client, rather than fill up my Outlook, I just download them all to here. All their documents. I have clients who don't love or are have found Clio difficult to use. It's quite simple, but a lot of clients will just email me their disclosure, and then I just downloaded it. So all the documents are saved in here. All their bills are here. I show there's no unpaid. Transactions, I don't use this that often. I found that I've tried to use this a couple of times with lawyers, and it really messed them up. So what I do is, even though I keep all of the client communications in here and all their documents, I also have a OneDrive folder that I keep all their documents in and organize them. And then I simply send a OneNote link to everybody, and then they can download the disclosure. What else is in here? Contacts, all my Outlook contacts are in here too. Activities, yeah, billing. I do take credit cards, so I ask for e-transfer or credit card. And so clients can, I can just send them a link, or I can charge them directly to their credit cards. It tracks my operating and my trust accounts. And then of course there's all the different reports that you can run. I don't use them that often, but sometimes it's helpful to summarize for a client what their how much they spent on my services. I tend to use that when I'm doing the tax receipts for you know, you can, for the pursuance of child support. What else? I can do.
Carl has a question. So Carl, please go ahead.
There's two there that you kind of mentioned that I was kind of curious of. So you said you can link this to QuickBooks,
Yes.
and you said you also linked it to your Outlook. Is it also
Yeah.
integratable with Google as well?
There's like 200 applications it can sync with. Those happen to be two that I use. So
Okay.
Yeah, there's let me just see if I can show you that.
I would assume so. If you can to one platform, I would assume it would be integratable to all of them. And then that last question I had, billing. So you can do credit card payments and it doesn't cost you additional?
It does.
It does cost me, I think it's, I don't know, it works out to 2%, maybe something like that. But here's the way I think about it is, if I could get zero from a client who has no money, or they can charge it on their credit card, and I'm happy to take 98% of what they owe me.
Oh no, I'm just curious because I had an Avalon, I think, or whatever the hell it's called, thing to do credit card, and I found it was starting to get kind of costly yearly renewal on that, and so I got rid of it and now just tell them when they have to do it via e-transfer. But if this system has it integrated, and then they're only charging me 2%, I don't care. I can just charge the client 2% then if they want to use a credit card.
Right. I don't tend to charge them 2% unless they're late. Like I'm pretty, most clients are pretty good.
Right.
But if they're more than 30 days past due, I tell them in my agreement that I'm going to charge them $50 plus 3% for credit card processing.
Okay.
I don't often do this, but if people are, you know, we all have those clients who are a bit of a, what I call pitas. Then it's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to charge you that 3% plus. And usually as soon as I charge them that, they said, oh, I'll pay it right now. And then, you know, and then they ask me to reverse it, whatever.
So that Clio links to your bank account then to be able to accept those?
Yep.
And there's no additional fee to actually have that part of it's all part of the software.
No, there's I used to use LawPay, which Clio supported, and now they've taken it on themselves. So now it's all part of Clio.
So Carl, this goes to the point I made. There's different models of Clio Manage and Clio Grow. So out of Clio Manage, I have one step above the basic. If I wanted some of those other features, then I might need the next one. So I might have a bit higher of an annual fee, or I could pay it monthly, whatever. Right. And there is the integration of credit cards. But for me, getting paid is not a pain point. So I didn't need to add that features. I think you have to look and say, where is this not running smoothly and efficiently? And when Terri and I chatted before she got her account, we talked about, oh, you're looking for something that's going to manage your intake and everything. I didn't need that. So I didn't go to Clio Manage, or I didn't go to Clio Grow, growing your business. I just stick with that. So you kind of have to think about, well, what is it that isn't working, or I would like to be more efficient and smoothly and work more smoothly to figure out which you want to do.
What happens if you don't know that answer?
Well, then you're gonna talk to the salespeople, just like our clients come to us. We know the questions to ask them. The salespeople there, they know, like, do you have trouble with this? Are you looking for automation of your document generation, like your separation agreement? Well, no, yes, for this, no for that, no for that. And then they can say to you, okay, well, then it's one of these two kinds of things.
Okay,
But the caution points are that once you take on a system like this, you're stuck with it. You'll be paying that annual fee, because if you stop, then you're not going to have accessible. So I personally save my invoices to my hard drive. So if at any point there was some redundancy problem that they were down for a few days, I'm not stuck. So
gotcha.
there's just ways of protecting her. I mean, I do system backups and everything else, but as Terri mentioned, she's got a couple of things integrated in, but she could always go back to one of those other systems that she's using. I think in part you have to think about, okay, the sources I send my documentation to, what do they like? What's going to be the easiest for them? And when I moved away from paper to electronic, this came into my lap. So it was like, okay, I'm just going here and I'll train lawyers if need be, but it isn't. It really is that simple.
Okay.
And I have very rarely had a client who has not been able to manage uploading their documentation and getting it close to the right place, and I'll just move it to the right place.
Bettina's had.
Yeah, Bettina's got a question for Terri.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that whether you pay QuickBooks or Wave or any of the Sage, they all take a fee for accepting credit cards, and the WordsMate is not. Clio is no different. It's just another 3% rate, and but you can bill through the system without any extra fees. And then if you saw in your bank account, hey, the amount came in, then you just mark it paid. So you can bypass that, but it's an extra step. And Clio is not a bookkeeping system. So you still have to use QuickBooks, Wave, whatever you're using. So it's a little bit of a, yeah, it's not having that part. And
Well,
so Terri, I understand that Grow is more like a CRM tool, right? So you
Right,
have
yeah.
all the data. And did you automate some processes?
Oh yeah, all my intake is all automated, and even the email templates that goes out with each form, that's automated. Because I thought at the time I was bringing on an assistant
Mm-hmm.
who didn't really work out, but it's just easier. As soon as a client says, yeah, I'm a go, I'm going to retain you, then I send out all those docs in the afternoon or whenever. I try to do it the same day as they've agreed to retain me, and then then they just start filling in the forms. Once all the forms are there, I've got my retainer, I move it into Clio Manage, and take it from there. But the invoices, I just click a button and it produces the invoice, and then I read each line item, make sure I haven't duplicated anything. Maybe it's like, okay, I was on the phone with them for 45 minutes, maybe I'll just charge them for half an hour, I'll do any adjustments there. But the invoices actually have a link and a QR code on them so that they can pay directly onto there. And then if they use that method, then it shows right in my in my billing, it shows that they've made a payment, and it goes credited automatically to the invoice as well. If they send me an e-transfer, then I have to manually do that. But yeah, and then the funds are in my account a couple of days after they have their credit.
And how so your calendar, your task list, is that a double entry, or does it take your Outlook calendar? How many entries do you have to make?
I usually do my tasks in Clio, and I put everything in there. Like I put personal stuff in there, pay my golf dues or whatever. I put everything in there, and then it carries over to Outlook, actually.
Okay, cool. And does it has individual, so Clio, does it has individual rates by the hour? Like if you would charge, or do you charge the same rate for everything you do?
Well, yes, I haven't tweaked that. There's some clients I charge a little less depending on their income level, but for most clients I charge the same rate. But you have on every line item, you can change that rate, or you can make it a blanket. When you're setting up the file, you can make a blanket, okay, they're going to be $300 an hour, whatever. So you can do it both ways. It's very flexible.
So when you yeah, Bettina, when you set up in your settings, if you had multiple people and each of your staff were at different hourly rates, you could set it up that way. Most of us are sole proprietor, sole functioning. So I have a default. And then when I set up my client file, I either just accept the default billing or I customize it. And then I can further customize it when I do the data entry, or as Terri just said, when I'm doing the invoicing, make that adjustment. But it is, one stop, do the default if you don't want to have any like if you don't want to use any of that flexibility.
Good, good. Is there a system out there that adds the 3% automatically to the payment if someone chooses credit card?
I think in your defaults you could do that. I know in mine, I set up my HST to be 13%, so I don't have to think about that. It just automatic. I check off the box, I add HST, and there's another one, add another tax or something. So provinces that have like the 2 tax billing, not the integrated that I use. So you could probably put something in there for that if you felt it was appropriate, or you would just add an entry.
Yeah.
Like one of your defaults.
Yeah, I just wish there would be something automated by the system that says, okay, this person pays by credit card, boom, that's added to the bill. So I get the amount I want to get.
Yeah, that's a good point, Gail. I'm going to look at it in more detail, but like this program will do a lot more than I use it for.
Same here.
But for me, thankfully Gail introduced me to this, because I was, things were all over the place, and I'd like to be, I'm not always the most organized person in my life, but I'd like to be really organized at work. And so it was like, I felt like I was using too many different programs. Just kind of pulled it all together. And now it's like, as I said, I open up my computer in the morning. That's the first thing I do. And it's kind of keeps me organized, keeps me, yeah.
Last question, which programs did you ditch?
I can't say I really ditched a program. Like I was using FreshBooks for my accounting and my invoicing, but then I had to then manually record my time. And sometimes I go, oh, I forgot to time. How long was it? An hour and a half, an hour? How much should I charge them? So I'm sure I shortchanged myself. I would use just the OneDrive for keeping all my files in, and I don't know, would I meet clients in person? Can you imagine meeting a client in person, or mailing them out some, your retainer letter? Like, I don't even remember how I did it, Bettina, but I'm still here to tell the story. So
okay, thank you.
I think for the most part, because Bronwyn was the one who introduced me to this system, because she had seen it at a conference, and it was manually doing a lot of things. So manually managing your invoicing, your activities tracking, and your intake, and your tracking people going through from the first call to an actual client. And if you're good at managing all those pieces, then you wouldn't need this. But when you get enough clients, and enough back and forth and in and out, it becomes unmanageable. And that's when, like Terri was saying to me, like, I'm losing, I'm dropping the ball on some stuff. I'm losing it. It's driving me crazy. I just don't want to be doing all this manual stuff.
Yeah, and it was always my fear that something would fall through the cracks. You know, I wouldn't follow up with a client or something. So I would have reminders here and there, and you know, in my Outlook, on a sticky note, in my manual account, I'd have reminders everywhere. And then that became overwhelming too. So it keeps me organized. For the whatever $1,500 I pay a year, whatever, well worth the price. I'd pay twice that. So.
And I guess the other thing is it's cloud-based, so whether I'm sitting here at this desk location or a different desk location, or I'm camping, I could go in and do certain things. Before we go to Sharon, who I know has her hand up, Al had asked a question about how long do we have to keep these files and what happens if you retire? Well, I mean, for CRA purposes, 7 years for the business end of things, or until I wrap up my corporation, I would be keeping the business end of things, but because I save them on my hard drive, I don't actually have to keep my Clio account open for that purpose. And I have client documentation saved on my hard drive and my external drive. So again, if I closed up the business and didn't have Clio, I wouldn't lose what I had from clients. At some point, it'll all go because I won't be doing any of these, but I don't believe that I'm going to be dependent upon Clio when I close down and retire out. Over to Sharon, who's had her hand.
Yeah, Sharon's been patient.
That's okay. I just asked a lot of questions. So Terri, for your Clio Grow and Clio Manage, you're saying it's about $150 a month. Is that for just one user? And do you have to pay the same amount if you have more than one user? Because I often use contractors just to do, you know, I've done some forensic accounting type work, which is a lot of data and stuff where I would be too expensive. So, but I do have another computer that I would give to the, which syncs with what I've done. But how much would it cost? Is that for just one user? And what would be the additional cost of another one?
I believe that's for one user. When I did use an assistant, I just gave her my logon details. That's not a question I can answer. You'd have to.
All right, I'll find them out.
That with Clio.
Just a couple comments. Blair's made a great one about disclosing fees. That if you're going to upcharge that credit card fee, you've got to disclose it, just like you're supposed to have your HST number on your invoicing. And the keeping your records, I'm assuming that's referring to tax records. I do not believe we are required to keep client file documentation records for any period of time. I tend to have a spreadsheet that I use for when I close a file 7 years out, then I can destroy all of that. But my documentation says that once you've given me, when our file work ends, I can destroy whatever I have at my discretion. So I'm not sure if there's any other comments Linda wants to make.
Yeah, I will make a comment because somebody else way back when asked about this, and there's like, for our particular specialty, there isn't necessarily that. The legal world keeps them much longer. One of the things that we looked at was that when you're done a file, you make sure that the client gets back everything in case there's anything that you might have kept that they gave you an original. I mean, I try to give them back anything like that right off the hop if they've actually physically provided something. But you would, you know, I would encourage a person to have some sort of a process in place that you identify with the client, this is what's happening. And because unfortunately, sometimes they do come back and it's not as early as the tax rules. So, you know, the legal system, it's like a forever thing, which is ridiculous. And it was somebody who was retiring that was asking that question. And so it definitely is, you you want to have yourself a process that you put in place and give back to clients, and you're kind of off the hook then. It's on them. So we've
Right.
actually, yeah, go ahead, Blair.
I couldn't get my electronic hand to go up here. So just on when you're talking about files, giving back client files is one thing, but our own files, we need to keep enough documentation to protect ourselves in case of a lawsuit against us for making a mistake or something like that, which is in my world typically 7 years. Even then, I keep them longer. You just never know. So anyway, I just wanted to raise that point that there is legal protection against us in case we get sued because we calculated the spousal support amount wrong or something like that.
Yeah, thanks, Blair. That's a really good point. That there is that possibility in the chat, give or take. I noticed some people talking about like whether there was a way to do it in a cheaper fashion. I guess it would depend on how many people might be interested in using it for us to like go to them as a group and say, would there be a way to do a discount? I'm sure there's no way that they do it as a block, but they might do it as a discount. So if people wanted to let us know, then we could explore that. I can't promise anything because I've tried with some other things and sometimes you're successful and sometimes you're not. We're not like a 10,000 block of people. So, numbers always talk. I'm going to ask if, rather than, because we've kind of used up a bit more time than was planned for, which is totally fine. I think it was really valuable hearing a little bit more in-depth stuff about the Clio. And so what I would encourage us to do is we'll reconvene to do the other part of the webinar next time, because I'm sure people have plans for the rest of their day. But what I would ask is, one of the things, depending on if we had more time, was to bring about some conversations about really challenging cases or issues that you've come across that were a bit more of going the extra mile for people and stuff like that. So you can either send me the questions or, pop them, like we've got a few more minutes till we would actually have closed off, like 5 more minutes. Eva was going to talk to us about her social media. Hopefully she will be able to do that at another time because we don't want to make her rush. Again, Blair, you had a question?
No comment. If we're wrapping up, I just want to go back to the beginning where we were talking about, budget worksheets and sending out the templates and so forth.
Yeah.
And just my advice there is we need to talk to our clients who are, a lot of them don't understand numbers, period. But rather than blindly send out the worksheets, we need to explain what they're for, and also point out why it's beneficial for them to do them. As soon as we tell them our rates and say, look, if you can fill these out, I'll be more efficient, I'll be less expensive, and things will move much better for you. I think that's a key piece, and I find it works very well. Once I lay down that piece, they're much more interested.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And that's certainly how I would encourage people to use them as a tool, because not just blindly send them out, but prepare them as to how they would be used and that sort of thing. I certainly found, sometimes if they, and the hourly rate is definitely a way to make them realize that this is not a good spend of their money. But certainly sometimes when they dump their stuff and, maybe they're shopping at Walmart or Costco and it's not necessarily groceries or clothes or whatever, and we don't know. So it makes them a little bit more getting back to the real truth of where the money is and stuff like that.
The other piece is I don't like doing budgets. I don't like going through bags of receipts and so on. Family services. We have a family service counseling agency here in PEI. They do budgeting. They help people work through their budgets, and I've sent divorce clients off to them. They're more than willing to feel for next to nothing, if anything at all, help people work through their budgets. So anyway, that's my comment.
Yeah, I was just going to say to you, go ahead.
I looked up what my Clio fees were between the two accounts. So I think the Clio manages 55.80 and the Clio Grow is 42.30 US a month. So $98 US a month, or 138 Canadian.
Okay,
So,
well, that's actually cheaper than what you originally quoted, so great.
yeah.
I just have a quote which is at 126 US, 175 Canadian. So that's 2,100 a year.
Hmm.
For both. That's a quote, and I'm like, I'm not sure yet what I'm gonna do.
Mhm,
Well,
mhm.
you'll get
Very
the 10%.
tempting.
So
Okay.
Okay, so as I say, hopefully, hopefully you guys enjoyed some of what you heard today and it made you think. So as I say, we'll sort of have part 2 of the webinar another month, and include the challenging questions and that sort of thing with it. So thanks for attending. Thanks a lot, Gail and Terri.
no
Have a
problem.
good day. Bye-bye.
You're
Thank
welcome. Bye, everyone.
We'll just wait for everybody, Al.
Yeah, thank you.
Tatiana, Al and I are just staying on for a private call. I'm wondering whether she just didn't sign out.
I think you have the right to sign her out.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too. There we go.
Good seminar. Well done.
Well, hopefully, I mean, I know some people like it would have been things that they already knew, but then there's other people that it's useful, and sometimes it's good just to have a reminder, right?
Well, as a newbie getting into it, you kind of wonder if you're at times. I wonder if I'm biting off more than I can chew.
For sure.
But no, it's good.
Just a second. Just a second. Tatiana's still trying to commit. Just a sec. Let me just talk to her. Hi, Tatiana.
Hey.
Al and I were just going to stay on for some questions that he had about something else.
I'm sorry. I thought I misunderstood you. Thank you so much, Linda. Great,
Okay.
great webinar. Cheers.
Okay. Well,
Bye.
good to see you, and we'll be in touch.
Okay.
Okay.
So the way you structured your question or your comment to me, was that in regard to the mentorship?
Yeah, just a sec. I'm going to stop recording. I just realized.
Oh, okay.